on this computer.
Oh, it gives you a big heads up.
Alrighty. So, good evening. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to sit down with me, Ryan.
Yep.
All right. So we're gonna dive into this. Basically, the purpose of this is I'm in a introduction to engineering class, and we've been watching some videos, some recordings that the instructor did of interviews he did with engineers, and so since I'm just getting my feet wet into this engineering thing, I'm trying to I just like your perspective since you've been doing it a while, and see if I'm making the right choice and if I'm going down the right path. So,
Sure.
um, my first question is, when and why did you decide to become an engineer?
So actually switched majors in college, and wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I knew that I liked working on my cars and figuring out how things worked and building things. So figured why not do that. And it was a pretty tough switch. Engineering courses are obviously notoriously difficult, but um, definitely worth it.
What were you originally going to school for?
I think I was pre-med, and then I was like, well, should I go into business? I really didn't know what I was. Really didn't. I wasn't one of those people that walked in and was like, this is what I meant to be.
Yeah,
Sometimes it takes a while.
totally, totally. Um, what was the biggest challenge for you in school, and how did you overcome it?
Mm, Finding the time, and yeah, just I think honestly, I think the biggest thing that helped me was like having some people to work with. Um, I worked at a couple jobs most of the way through school, and a lot of time you kind of find your group that you do all your homework, or work on things together. If one of you doesn't get the notes, or if one of you doesn't understand a concept, it's like invaluable to be able to just sort of reach out to a buddy and go, hey man, I don't know what's going on with this class. So I think that was the biggest thing. Like, I mean, everybody has a hard time in some class at some point, but even the smartest guy I knew wasn't as good at calculus as I was, but I couldn't do algebra to save my life. So, there were times where we could like hook up and go like, oh, thank God.
Hmm. That's yeah, that's not the answer I was expecting, but I don't know what I was expecting, but good. I like that. Um, Okay, if you could go back in time before you started your engineering journey, knowing what you know now, what would you change, if anything?
I think I would have liked to. I mean, Wazoo, where I went to school, was pretty good at giving you hands-on examples. At least better than some schools, like just talking to other people. Um, but I think practical application um, would probably be the biggest thing. Like really trying to figure out what it looks like to do a job, and what kind of jobs are out there, just because it's so hard to know what you're walking into. Um, so I mean, yeah, talking to folks, interview like this kind of thing, just talking to somebody like, what do you actually do? Because engineering in real life is not like school, just like any job or any degree isn't gonna be a direct comparison.
Um, okay, do you this isn't on my list, but I guess what do you find you spend a lot of time doing non-engineering things at work?
Oh yeah, most of my time.
Yeah. What are those
Um,
kinds of things you do?
you got to do a lot of project management. You gotta know how. I mean, so what I do, and it depends because I have friends that I have a buddy who's an aerospace engineer that he does mostly like drawings, drafting, engineering. I don't think he does a whole lot of like project management. Um, so for him, it might be 70-30 engineering. For me, it's probably like 50-50
Hmm.
engineering versus like admin, project management, scheduling, cost estimating, bids, because we have to chase work. So, I've spent half my week last week putting together like a design narrative for what I thought it would take to do a job, so that somebody could bid it, for so that the general contractor could bid the job. Um, give them more information based on what I saw in the in the package. So I think that's the biggest thing is it really depends on what you're doing. I mean, there are definitely jobs out there where you're going to be heads down and mostly looking at data or using software to plan. If you're going into electrical engineering, you might be doing like power grid stuff, or if you're in mechanical engineering, you might be designing little actuators or something. Um, yeah, it just depends. A lot of jobs out there though just aren't that engineering focused. So it really depends on what if you're a people person and you want to look for jobs that are like that strength. Because I've met people that didn't know what they were walking into and they wanted to do hardcore engineering, and they didn't like the job because it was like dealing with people all the time.
Got it. Uh, um, so what do you like about being an engineer, and what do you not like?
But part of it is I mean all the jobs that I've done so far are usually construction oriented in some way or another. Um, Whether it be when I was at the utility company, I was project management, or I was helping scope projects. Um, and now it's doing that, but for like mostly like naval facilities or for ships. I think the best thing about it is usually you're kind of, if you're lucky, you get to see your things that you do go into action. Um, it's really neat to go like, oh yeah, I had a hand in that. Like it's physically built. It's right there. I can see it. Like there's something that I put on paper uh, is now there, which is really neat. Um, and honestly, a lot of that is depending on what you do is collaborating and working with those people that are physically building. Right. So anything as an engineer you put on the paper, you're probably not physically touching any of that stuff. The closest I get to doing electrical work is opening up a panel or popping open a transformer. But getting to be on site and talking to the guys that are actually pulling wire, actually building things, they have the insights that you don't have coming from school. And I find that there are a lot of engineers that don't value that nearly as much as they should. You'll notice that engineers can get a bit of an air about them that they know better. And that's probably one of the things that I don't like about being. Sometimes the people you work with are they get a little too confident, and they aren't willing to listen. So I think that's one of the downsides.
Interesting. Yeah, just what kind of prima donnas type thing, or
Yeah, I'm an engineer. It's like a status thing, which is fine. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to get an engineering degree. It's hard to get a PE if you get one. It's all this stuff, but they'll look at somebody who doesn't have the degree and not value their insight. And it's like, well, they've been an electrician for 40 years. They know what they're talking about,
yeah,
that kind of thing.
got it.
So, and it's not everybody, but it does happen.
Yeah, of
More
course.
than I would like sometimes.
What has your career path looked like so far? What's that trajectory been like?
Well, that's kind of fun because I mean, now I'm an electrical engineer by title, and I've got my professional engineering license in electrical engineering. But I actually got my degree in mechanical engineering. So I got out of school and I had a few job offers and was doing interviews. And when I interviewed at the utility company, they said that it was kind of on the construction side. And he told me that I would be able to go outside quite a bit. And so that was it. It was a decent starting salary, and he said I wouldn't be at a desk all day. And that to me, I was working at the outdoor rec center for a while and stuff when I was in college, so that was very appealing. And then yeah, I mean, I did construction project management and some design. Then I switched to more of an engineering group after that, where I was doing like reliability planning and project scoping. So anything from like maybe 500,000 to $3.5 million projects,
Mhm.
where I would be scoping like conductor replacements and undergrounding projects and looking at data for um, where the outages were on a circuit and why they were coming out and how long they were getting taken to put back up, and what's the best solution, the most cost effective solution to reduce those power outages to the most people. And then yeah, I went back to construction project management for a while. um, got a little burnt out, pretty stressful. And I'd always wanted to work in marine engineering of some sort, so I just kept applying and kept applying and kept applying for years. And finally, I got an in at this company here.
And so, what does that transition look like? I mean, because you went to school and got your degree in mechanical engineering, is it sounds very odd to me that you would be an electrical engineer now. I mean, is that a was it a pretty easy lateral move, or was there a lot of convincing or cajoling or going back to school, or I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, it was kind of tough. I mean, I got to learn some electrical concepts doing the utility work. Um, slowly over, like I was there for 6 years almost, so
Mhm.
I got to learn quite a bit over that amount of time, or at least enough. Uh, and then yeah, I mean, basically, they were like, "Can you know, you think you can?" Because I've been working as an engineer at a utility company, so I was more or less a power engineer. Um, they go, "Well, can you know, you think you can just go into being a full time like electrical design engineer, and you got to you're gonna have to be able to pass your PE exam within a year and get your license." And I really wanted to work there, so I said yes. I figured I would just do my best to make that happen. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, I took
pretty bold, yes, yeah.
yeah, I was not certain about it, to be honest. But yeah, I took a 4 month class. It was about 150 hours, about 70 hours of lecture, and probably another 70 or 80 hours of practice exams and quizzes. And
Mhm.
yeah, went and took my license exam in August and got that. And I mean, I'm still learning a lot. It's definitely still a struggle. There's stuff that comes up all the time that concepts that are maybe a little harder for me to tackle, because I don't have that scholastic background in electrical engineering. I have a couple of circuits classes that I took in school, but there's a big difference between that and a full-on degree of
Yeah.
intensive classes. So it's not the easiest, but it's been pretty rewarding just kind of doing what I can to do that.
And so so now you made the shift, and it sounds like you're in the type of place you wanted to be in for quite a while. Well, looking forward into the future, what are your career goals? What is there anything on your mind that you would like to like? Do you have any kind of bigger plans for where you'd like to end up in the next 5, 10 years, or
Biggest thing, so where I work now, like I said, it's about half marine engineering and half like buildings. So,
Mhm.
whatever, commercial buildings, but a lot of it's like naval based stuff, but it's just an office building. It just happens to be on a naval base or stuff like
Yeah,
that. Um, and so really part of that is that there's not really enough work to keep me 100% busy on the marine side.
mm,
So what I've been pushing is to get more involved in the business development for the company. It's a small company, so it's not hard to, there's only 35 people, so getting the CEO's ear or the COO's ear isn't difficult. But I've been pushing to go to conferences, pushing to try and do more business development for the electrical engineering portion of the business, and just kind of get projects under our belt. Port electrification. We're doing a white paper right now where I'm going to be presenting. Well, we're submitting and then hopefully we get picked to present the white paper in Seattle next June,
Mhm.
because we're doing a case study for trying to turn a diesel electric ferry boat or a diesel ferry boat into an electric ferry boat. Um,
Yeah, they love that up there, huh?
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Wait, so this is interesting because I don't know, it kind of sounded earlier when you were talking about all the project management stuff you did, almost like kind of like it fell in your lap, or that's just kind of the way things went. But I don't know, it sounds like you're kind of pulled into in supervisory project management business side of things role. Does that sound right? I mean, is there something that pulls you towards that kind of thing versus another route that's more just head down,
Right.
just
So
doing, yeah,
yeah, personally, it's my preference, or I like that. So
yeah,
um, I like that mix. Uh, and part of it's being at a smaller company. Um, they don't have very much for dedicated, like they don't have any dedicated project managers. So all the engineers end up doing some project management.
I see.
Um, so it's a little of both. Everybody has to do a little bit there, and there's definitely people that are more suited to it than others. Um, and definitely people that like I know the guys that really don't want to do the project management part. They kind of just have to because it's a small company and that's how it goes. Um, but yeah, no, personally, I enjoy it. I like doing the business development, networking, the project management. I don't mind that stuff.
Nice. That's cool. I feel like that's where I would like to head now. In my job, I'm having more it's like you know, leading a team and
Yeah,
doing that kind of stuff, and I love it.
yeah, it's great. It's rewarding.
Yeah. What project are you working on right now?
Let's see. There's one that we're doing the final drawings right now. That's Alaska Marine Highway System ferry vessel. It's called the Hubbard.
Hmm.
It was built in 2019, I think. And they just did a big addition on top of it for crew quarters. So, because they do long ferry routes, like 16 hours or something like that.
Oh, whoa. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so they run up through the islands and go from like Bellingham up to Ketchikan up to Anchorage. They go
Wow.
all over the place.
Wow.
So they actually need crew quarters for a lot of those routes so that crews can rotate and sleep. Um, the ferry wasn't initially built with it, so they're adding it now, and we're doing the design for the addition. So I've actually been up there twice now to spend a week on the ship um,
Oh, I
for
think
afterwards.
I saw on Instagram you're up in Alaska. That was
Yeah,
for
yeah, I was
that.
there in October.
That sounds
No,
about
beginning of November. I don't remember. I don't remember.
that. Yeah, it feels in like it was in there.
Yeah, within the last couple of months, I was there for a week. Um, so that's a cool one. It's closing out, and then um, yeah, the other side of the business, the facilities stuff, data center remodel, retrofit, where we're doing a bunch of like redundant power kind of setups. So, um, UPS systems. Um, and the other part that we also have a standing contract doing, another big one is like charging stations. So like the bus station in Bremerton here, we're doing the second phase design for their electric buses. So
God.
that's actually what I've been working on this week a little bit more.
Now, looking back, and maybe you already touched on it with the white paper you were talking about earlier. Maybe you've got something else in mind. But what's been the most interesting or exciting project you've worked on?
Well,
Like
since
you're going to career day at the school, and you want to tell them that cool
right.
thing you did.
Hmm. Yeah, so far that ferry has probably been the most interesting to me just because I'm so new to the marine kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Um, there hasn't been a terrible there's another project that I don't think I'm allowed to talk about. That's going to be really interesting. I'm not sure. I don't think I can.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Well, that's pretty interesting in itself.
Yeah, I can't remember. I know that I can't remember if that's the one with an NDA, and so I'm just not gonna,
Yeah.
just in case. Um, but yeah, I mean, and it's not crazy. It's just, you know, but part of it's, getting to, go on these military bases. Some of the interest is honestly just getting to see different things. Sometimes it's like, oh, we're working on something benign, but you're getting access to spaces and places that not everybody does. So it's just getting to see that, or going up to a shipyard and seeing how a shipyard operates. It's like, um, these jobs can take you to different. I've been to Alaska so far, Houston. I'll be in Georgia at some point probably. There's a job that we're bidding. This one will be cool. It got pushed. We were supposed to maybe do it in December. We don't have it yet for sure, but we might be going to Japan in March.
No,
Yeah.
22.
So for a couple of weeks, for a naval ship. So, it's just kind of, you never know what it's going to throw at you. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
There was just one day my boss was like, "Hey, you mind going to Japan next month?" And I was like, "What?"
Like, yes, I will do it.
Yeah, I was like,
I will sacrifice
"Absolutely."
for you.
Yeah, I guess. Twist my arm.
Okay. What traits does it take to be a good engineer, would you say?
Well, I think you get a different answer from everybody or from a lot of people. I personally think being open is a huge part of it. Now, I think that there was a time because especially once in my field, once you have your like that PE after your name, people expect like a solid answer
Mm.
for everything quickly. You're the expert, you know.
Mhm.
So there's a time and a place to be open to things, and there's a time. So you have to be kind of decisive. That's probably part of it. Sometimes it's like, that's the best option we have right now, and we need to move forward. So that's what we're gonna do. Or people will bring up, well, what about this? What about that? And you go, no, no, it's time. We gotta make a decision. So being decisive, being open, and getting feedback, but knowing when to like put your foot down or knowing when to go. Like, hey, it's time we gotta make a decision. Um, so I guess that balance, that's a big part of it. Yeah, time management, kind of some of those other generic traits are part of it, but I think that that openness, but also decisiveness is a big part of it.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me that you would talk about things that involve kind of interpersonal skills, in some ways, and I guess like you alluded to earlier, dealing with people. Um, it's just not what I think most people and what I would have thought of with engineering, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's totally times where it's like, hey, you got to do markups on this sheet. Yeah, you got to figure out where are we running wire, or what size duct do you going to run for the HVAC system, or what power draw are you going to need here, and there all that stuff is definitely in place. But the other side of that is, okay, when you're done drawing that up, the next step is, okay, we're going to do a design review meeting with the Navy or, with the customer or whoever. And then it comes down to, well, why did you do that? And you
Hmm.
got to justify it. And that justification, yeah, it's technical, but it's also like they need to trust that you know what you're talking about. And so it's also how you carry yourself. And it's like that I said that decisiveness, right? Because well, why don't we do it this way? Why don't we do it that way?
Hmm.
So for every technical aspect of the job, unless like I said, there are totally jobs out there that are very heads down R&D, like lab, um, but at least all the jobs that I've had so far, there's always a component of convincing somebody why you did it that way, or coordinating the the drawing package submittals. You're working with vendors, you're working with other subs, you're working with other disciplines, you're working with other engineers, and so there's always that human component.
Cool, thank you. Um, if you could give any advice to a future engineer just starting out, what would that be? What advice? I'm the future engineer, by the way.
um think it would be like, feel like, yeah, it's super important. You know, you do need your decent grades. Like I wouldn't tell somebody like you need a 4.0 unless you're gonna, depending on what you're shooting for. Um, Most people don't, you know. You know, get your decent grades, definitely keep your head down and you know, learn those base concepts, but also try and learn the practical aspects, try and take to heart um some of the group or like group projects, that collaboration. Um yeah, learn how to work with people, but learn how to like stand on your own feet when you need to, like stand your ground on stuff in school or um and don't feel like you're gonna be obligated to, you know, I gotta, you know, if I take this set of classes, that's what I'm gonna end up doing for work. Like take what interests you in school, but know that like, you know, there's always gonna be a curveball somewhere. You know, I took all sorts of classes that I don't use anymore, but you know, a lot of what that teaches you is how to approach a problem, or you know,
Mhm.
you get these gut feelings like, no, I just don't think that's gonna work, man. Like, um, and that's a really like I think the biggest thing I gained from engineering school. Like, yeah, you have that technical background, but it's just like this weird gut check that you get where you go, just doesn't feel right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to meet with me. I really appreciate your candor and your answers.
Absolutely.
All right, and then
No
gosh,
problem.
I've never recorded something on Zoom before. I'm worried when I press stop recording that it won't save the recording.
Yeah, and I have no idea.
Um,